Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, April 16th, 2025. I am Dave Biddle. I'll be joined by Matt Baxendell in just a moment. So the transfer portal is open for business, open today. It's open through next Friday, so April 25th. Will the Buckeyes add anybody? Yes, I think they will. We'll get to that. I don't know. I doubt they'll add more than one or two guys, but I think they will add somebody. Will they lose anybody? I don't think they're going to lose anybody of significance. Could there be one or two guys hop in the portal? Not out of the realm of possibility. I'm curious what Bax thinks about that. I'm curious what some of you guys think about that. Before we get to all of that, I'll tell you guys again about my friends at Mando and a great deal you guys can get. So as I've been telling you guys, Mando is America's #1 whole body deodorant for men, and I highly recommend it to all of you. If you've been using the same deodorant for many years like I was, it's time to try something new and better, and that's where Mando comes in. Do you want to try America's #1 whole body deodorant right now? You can now find the products at Walmart, Target, Meijer, and other retailers across the country. But for the best deal, still go to shopmando.com. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, and free shipping. Pretty good. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code BUCKNUTS at shopmando.com, shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. All right. Boosting my confidence is Matt Baxendell right now. Let's bring him in. Bax, good to see you, my friend. How you doing?
Doing fantastic, Mr. Biddle. Good morning to you.
Are you doing as good as the Columbus Blue Jackets?
I mean, they're right there. It's been a really fun run to watch them. That's one of the best young teams in hockey in terms of talent for a while, and they kind of put it together this year. All they needed was a goalie that could stop a puck, and for those of you who aren't aware and are just asking us to talk about Ohio State football, if the Montreal Canadiens lose tonight and the Blue Jackets win tomorrow night, the Blue Jackets actually make the playoffs. So it's been a fun run.
It has, and the future is bright, as you mentioned. I didn't expect to start the show talking about the Blue Jackets, but hey, c'est la vie. All right, so transfer portal is open for business. We'll start with additions. Do you foresee the Buckeyes adding anyone? I don't need specific names unless you want to give them, but positions, do you expect them to land multiple guys, nobody? Just what are your thoughts on arrivals to Ohio State from the portal?
Well, it's not going to be Nico, I'll tell you that much. So what a mistake that guy made, by the way, huh? Like, Tulane doesn't even want to negotiate with him now. He's going to have to beg his way back to Tennessee for a discount from his original deal. And I think that's going to be fantastic to watch long-term because of all this shakedown we've had. It's not NIL, it's PTP, pay to play, baby. Mm-hmm. But I would tell you from an Ohio State perspective, I don't know if there's much that they necessarily need. I could see them certainly getting a little more depth on the D-line if something worth their time appears. To me, that's the one spot that if I'm Ohio State, I plan on at least looking if people come into the portal. I think the other thing to keep in the back of their mind is that you want to have at least 3 quarterbacks going into the fall. I don't anticipate any of the 3 we saw in the spring game leaving. But if something like that happens, I think they will start looking. So to me, I don't know if there's going to be significant portal work at this point for OSU. They have, 6 that they brought in already, Dave? So I think they're probably going to be pretty close to done. They've got a ton of guys that are talented. And unless they have losses that they need to offset, I think maybe another D lineman, and that's about it. Because you can't never have enough D linemen. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. I'm pretty confident they're going to get a D tackle. I don't know if it's going to be maybe I don't know if you can find a stud D tackle in the portal. That'd be great. I just want an impact player, somebody that can come off the bench and be like a guy they can trust. Because right now I don't know if they trust the backup D tackles. I think they like the starters with Edric Houston and Caden McDonald. And I could see them adding a quarterback just because Ryan Day has always said he likes having 4 scholarship quarterbacks in the room. So I can see them adding a quarterback just for depth, like a Chugs, Jebbia, Gunnar Hoke type.
Gunnar Hoke was the one I was going to say.
Yeah.
Is there a Dublin kid that is a junior or a senior somewhere that we can bring back to Ohio State who will run here from wherever they're at school at?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I think Vanderbilt DT. There's a kid. There's a FCS kid that hopped in the portal who knows? I mean, there's a freshman, I think, FCS. I can't remember the school. And it's like, okay, well, he was a true freshman playing at the FCS level. Are we sure he's better than Jason Moore? How would Jason Moore have looked last year at like an FCS school, or a Will Smith Jr., or a Tywone Malone, or an Eric Mensah? It has to be somebody who is an improvement over those guys, or there's no reason to do it. So
and what are you looking at
for
fun
to see it play out? What's that?
Like how much bigger does a Jason Moore get over a whole summer of training? You know what I mean? These are certain things you have to start talking about where you have to project not what somebody is right now, but where some of these young guys that are high-level recruits that are developing still are going to be by the time the season starts. So, if you're really nervous about it, and by the way, like I said, you always need depth. You always need depth. So I could see them getting someone. I don't know if they're going to reach, though. I think the kid from Vanderbilt's probably the least reach, but it'll be interesting to see how many people come into the portal here, too, after spring ends. I mean, it's usually a ton right after the season and then a little bit less after the spring games is usually how the portal works.
Yeah, it's like I've compared it to signing day now. You and I used to love the regular signing day when it was just one signing day. You and I loved it. It's kind of taken the luster off for me a lot. I almost said a little bit, a lot. Early signing period is nice, and that's when everybody pretty much signs. It just doesn't have the same feel as the original sign. And then the late signing day is like the spring transfer portal where like everybody who really, pretty much your entire class signs early signing period. And you get a few guys maybe in the late signing period. Kind of the same thing with the portal. You take care of your needs during that winter portal, and then maybe get one or two guys. So I think they'll get a D tackle and they'll get maybe a quarterback. All right, departures. I don't see anybody of significance leaving. Do you?
No. I think the only fear you have is somebody throws a lot of money, Tennessee, at Lincoln Kienholz, hoping he would start somewhere else. I think that is the real big thing that you have to think of from a departure point of view, is you have two guys that look like they are pretty good quarterbacks at Ohio State, and obviously only one can start. So if you have a school that is quarterback needy with a lot of money sitting around, Tennessee, you have to really wonder if they're going to try to chase one of them down with a monster dollar offer. I think that's your biggest departure fear, just because, again, that is one snap from disaster if you don't have the appropriate depth there. And no offense to the extremely talented Tavian St. Clair, but he is not ready to play yet in big moments. It just going to take a year or two to develop to be at that point.
Yeah, there were some guys entering spring that people would ask me about, like, oh, you think CJ Hicks is going to transfer? I'm like, no, I really don't. Like, I don't. And now I shouldn't say I'm convinced. I don't want to speak in absolutes, but like, I'm pretty sure CJ Hicks is happy. At first, I think he had some trepidation when he first made the move to edge last year. A couple of my colleagues on the beat I know talked to him, and he seemed a little upset. I'm hearing this secondhand, so this is not something I heard directly. But I think he's happy now, man. I think he's happy, even though he's not going to be a star. I think CJ Hicks is happy that he has this new role. So I don't think he's going to transfer.
On something important here too, Dave. CJ Hicks is happy, but people in this culture that Ohio State has formed really like being there. A lot of places, especially when college football becomes so transactional in the recent years with NIL, the transfer portal, you saw Ohio State's culture this year. And it's a place that genuinely embraces people. They feel welcome in it. You can tie in the level of widespread Christianity you have on the team if you would like to. That's certainly a factor. But a lot of people like being at Ohio State because the player and family cultures are excellent. And a lot of people who might want to run off somewhere else feel more happy. They feel more welcome. They feel there's more value to their lives being a part of this football team and part of this program because of the people in the program. And that's something that in any team often gets overlooked because you think you can just stack up guys like it's video games, but culture matters, man. And a guy like CJ Hicks probably somewhere runs off else and goes, I don't want to do this. I'm not happy here. But the people around him make him feel like it's the best thing for him. They make him realize why the coaches are doing what they're doing. And it's a place that you're like, man, I don't want to leave here though. Like, even if you're like, well, I'm not sure, you like where you're at. And some of these things, look, people leave for business decisions. We get that. But business decisions get a lot harder when your heartstrings are tying you to where you're at. And that's a part of that the culture OSU has built. And a lot of people scoff at this and say, it's just about the best players' backs. But I'm telling you, right now, culture matters, especially in an era where a lot of places have lost their culture and start retiring quarterbacks with losing records numbers.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. Let's talk about some guys that really helped themselves during spring. I mean, speaking of the transfer portal, like Gabe Powers transferred, and I think everybody initially was surprised, and I thought, oh, well, he knows he's behind Arvell Reese. I think it was more like he knew Peyton Pierce was coming too.
Yeah.
Peyton Pierce it's easy to see why James Laurinaitis gushes about him. He's a guy that's going to play a ton this year. I don't know if he's going to technically be a starter, but we're going to see a lot of Peyton Pierce out there, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, he's one that definitely has turned into a very positive outcome from spring football here. Pierce was one of those guys too, like you said, when Laurinaitis was talking about him, you could just see it on his face. And if James Laurinaitis is excited about a linebacker, I am also therefore excited about a linebacker. Seems like a guy who might know what he's talking about. And I said this how many times to you, Dave, where we're like, Laurinaitis is going to be the new linebacker whisperer, like Hartline was the wide receiver whisperer, because he's the easiest person to get kids to listen to. Because he literally walks in and goes, hey, I was you. Look what I did. You want that big NFL contract? You want to play in national title games? Just shut up in color, man. And the kids listen. That's what's happened with Hartline. That's happening with Laurinaitis. And you attract the kids that want that. And Pierce is clearly one of those guys. So I am looking at him and thinking it's going to be another kind of rotation role like we had last year, except Pierce is going to step in kind of a little bit like Cody Simon's spot. You're going to see more of Reese for sure, right? But Pierce is going to be on the field. There's zero doubt about that in my mind.
Where you at on quarterbacks leaving spring?
Well, obviously, Sayin had the more shiny performance in the spring game. He came out a little hotter right off the bat, and Keenholz was a little jumpy and excited early. He missed a few passes on his first series, but he did pretty good too. Just everybody was kind of like, "Ooh, look how good that Sayin's doing," and it kind of glossed over. Keenholz is pretty good too. I think if you're Ryan Day, you are not remotely interested in naming a starter. And I say this every year when it's really not in doubt. But Ryan Day really hates naming a starter before mid-August because He wants the kids to stay around and be part of the season. That was last year where we were like, look, Will Howard's going to start. But Devin Brown, he doesn't want to lose Devin Brown. And for good reason. You needed to have a quality backup in place. And going into last fall, we're really thinking that Sayin or Keenholz was ready. They weren't, but now is their time, and both may be ready. So I think it's a tight battle. I think Sayin's ahead. But I think Ryan Day would never admit that to anybody but pretty much his inner circle.
Yeah, maybe just his son and his wife. Maybe not even like Brian Hartline. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, he would talk to his coaches about that. Yeah, and the biggest thing is I think whoever wins the job, and I agree, I think it's going to be Sayin. I'm confident that either one of them is going to play well. And a big reason is they've got the best group of wide receivers to throw to. They've got a good offensive line. They've got good running backs, and they've got a great tight end room. And they have Ryan freaking Day as their head coach. Is there a better head coach you could have if you're a college quarterback right now? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And by the way, the other thing I want to throw out there is that they have Max Clare. And I walked out of there thinking, oh boy, we've started to have some good tight ends the last couple of years, Dave. It used to be a joke who's going to catch 30 balls. Mm-hmm. And this is by no means an insult to G. Scott, who had a great year and was a great leader. Max Clare could be an All-American at tight end because they're going to have these two high safeties all the time against the receivers OSU has on the outside. Clare is just going to be zipping right up the middle, getting 20-yard receptions like on the regular. That's the matchup that you probably hope you can win if you're a defense, because you don't want Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis and Mylan Graham and all these other guys on the outside just blasting the top off your D. Max Clare is going to be these young quarterbacks' best friend in their early games. And I saw the transfer initially from Purdue, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. We need another guy. And then I saw him, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is the guy.
He was like a really good weapon for Purdue last year, and they didn't have any offensive weapons. Like he was their best weapon. So he was like the guy. If you're playing Purdue, you go in thinking, okay, he's the guy we got to shut down. And he still had a good year for Purdue, who had a terrible year overall. You're right. Yeah. He's never going to face double teams ever at Ohio State, ever. What are you going to do? Double Max Clare and leave JJ single covered and Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis and Mylan Graham's another one that helped himself. We're going to get into more guys that helped themselves. I want to ask you about Mylan Graham and some of these guys. Before we do that, I'll let you guys know about Cornbread Hemp. Dan Rubin loves it. It's time to experience your healthy happy hour. Cornbread Hemp provides a natural and healthier way to experience a carefree moment. Cornbread's THC gummies offer a balanced sense of happiness and relaxation. Relaxation. I just made up a word there. Happiness and relaxation. Good combination. Happiness and relaxation. These are America's only USDA-approved organic THC gummies. Real THC, no synthetics, 100% legal hemp, fast and free shipping. If you're looking for a healthier way to enjoy a carefree moment, you have to give Cornbread Hemp a try. They've created the first ever USDA organic THC gummy that's 100% legal, like I just said. As a special offer for Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners, you can get 30% off your first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/Bucknuts. Use promo code Bucknuts at checkout. Again, that's cornbreadhemp.com/Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts for 30% off your first order. Cheers to a healthier happy hour. Imagine Patrick Murphy would like that too. I'll have to ask him. Just a guess. I think he would. All right. Mylan Graham looks really good. If he was like the number 2 receiver, I keep saying, man, we'd be saying that's a luxury item having Mylan Graham as the number 2 behind JJ. How about he's the number 4 receiver? How's that for a luxury item?
Mylan Graham is the quietest, eventually to be elite, near 5-star kid to come into college football the last 2 years. Like at OSU, we are so inoculated against getting excited about yet another elite receiver recruit committing. Sure, great. And you see the kid, though, and at 120 schools, he would be the player that school's fan base was gushing about right now. I mean, he's a big-time player. We just have so many good receivers that OSU fans are like, oh, yeah, we also have Mylan Graham. That's like the one problem he has is that he's at the place with all these elite receivers. You look at him, he's a big body. His hands are excellent. He can move. The one catch he made in traffic in the spring game told me all I needed to know. He had a hand literally between his face and where his hands were to catch the ball. He couldn't physically see it, and he just snatched it. And I looked at that and went, okay, this kid's going to translate the second he's allowed on the field. He's going to be one of those sneaky guys this year, Dave, especially if OSU gets up in games and he gets in more. He could be a guy that has half a dozen touchdowns this year quietly, because you're going to be talking again about J.J. Smith. You're going to be talking about Carnell Tate. Brandon Ennis is going to get on the field. I'm a very big Mylan Graham fan, and he's a guy here the next couple of years for OSU. It's going to make some noise.
Let's talk about some true freshmen on defense that are going to be able to help out right away. These guys came in ready to go, man. I mean, Devin Sanchez, obviously, Fahim Delane, Riley Pettijohn, TJ Alford. I think Pettijohn's probably ahead of him, but I like having both those young men. They're both going to be studs. I think Pettijohn's going to play this year, maybe as the number 4 linebacker. It'll either be him or Garrett Stover, probably. But Zion Grady backs, I think, can add some depth at defensive end. But Devin Sanchez is going to play a ton. I think Fahim Delane's going to be on the 2 deep. Whoever loses that battle between McLean and Hartford, I think Hartford's going to lose the battle. I think McLean's going to be the starter, opposite downs. So Hartford will be on the 2 deep. I think Fahim Delane will be the other safety on the 2 deep. So, man, these true freshmen came in. They're adding valuable depth to a defense that's losing 8 starters.
Well, yeah, and when you asked about freshmen that I thought might play, it immediately went to the defensive backs. I mean, we saw that. Sanchez looked really good from what we could see of the spring game. He'll be competing with, Aaron Scott and Bryce West for some of that extra run that you get with some of these guys moving on to the pros. But I thought Delane. I mean, Delane should have had a pick 6. I'm sure he's getting hectic. He got caught by a quarterback on that play. But, true freshman, it was a nice play too. He stepped right over, disguising on his coverage. It was a nice little interception there. Got to give him a lot of credit. But these young guys are going to play in those roles. When you bring in elite players in a position where you're losing guys off to the NFL, a lot of them, it's going to be kind of who wants to play. So there's opportunity for those young men to get on the field, and you're going to see some freshmen, especially in the back end of that defense. You talk about freshmen in general. We always used to say, well, the easiest position for a freshman to play in college football is at running back. On defense, it's not easy to play anywhere. It's not like handoff ball run like you do with running backs a lot. But I think you have some very polished young defensive backs that are going to be on the field this year.
I think entering spring, a lot of people assumed, maybe myself included, that Philip Daniels is going to be the starting right tackle, and maybe he will be. I think he was a good get for Minnesota. I think Austin Saraveld's going to be the starting right tackle.
You know, I don't disagree. I think we all knew that Ethan, and I said, see if I say this right, Onionwa.
Yeah.
Onionwa. I got in trouble for not being able to say Tumo Alau. I still can't.
Tui Moloau.
I called him JTT forever because they just couldn't get his name right.
You can speak like multiple languages, but some of these names, man, are going to trip you up.
Tongue twisters don't help with grammar, man.
That's right, man.
My name,
Onionwa.
Onionwa was the guy we all knew was going to be the left tackle.
Yeah.
With Philip Daniels coming in, there's a little bit of a bigger difference between him, though, and Onionwa, which is that he's the guy that was the Ohio kid. He's a younger kid with more eligibility remaining. On the promise front, I think the promise was you'll get a chance to compete, but you'll be at Ohio State for Daniels. And I think Daniels was like, I'm in. But the reality is Austin Saravel wants to be on the field too, and he's been here the whole time. He's more familiar probably with some of the schemes. He's a guy that's not going to be willing to easily just, cede his spot to some new guy. And I love that. You want to see competition step up. You want to force the coaches to have harder decisions. And that's a good thing, especially when you're replacing a guy who was the starting right tackle for 3 years. So it's a good thing for Ohio State to have this competition go into the fall. I'm not remotely upset about it. I think it's a good thing.
Question from Mika here. Anyone concerned about the Armstrong twins? Wait, this was the plan all along with them. Keep in mind, even though those guys are huge and they have got great potential, like they might have ended up as a 4-star, but I think they were a 3-star for most of the recruiting process. Yeah, they might have even ended as 3-star. So I think we got to be a little patient with them. Now, they came from a powerhouse program, so that's good. St. Ed's. I think they won 3 straight state championships. All over Springfield, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember for sure. So they give Aaron Scott crap about that. But this was always the point, playing with them, to bring them in, bulk them up. Now they're trimming them down a little bit, but keeping their strength. And it was always going to take probably till their 3rd year. So next year at this time, if they're not ready to go, then we can be worried. Mika, I'm not worried about them yet, but they're definitely running with the 3rd team. They're not really in the running to be on the 2 deep right now. So depends on how you look at it.
Well, and Dave, too, what people forget is what used to be the traditional path of development for 3-star Ohio linemen was not that they would roll in like some of these kids do right away today. Like a lot of the linemen you bring in, you're like, well, can he start right away, right? The path of development used to be the kid came in, they redshirted, they didn't play their freshman redshirt year much either, and then maybe sophomore redshirt year, and then certainly hopefully by junior redshirt year, they were able to help and contribute. That was forever how this worked. An offensive line, I just talked about a running back's probably the easiest position to play as a true freshman. Offensive line's probably the hardest to play as a true freshman because you're going against men in the trenches as an 18, 19-year-old. And not many 18, 19-year-olds have developed physically to the size they need to get, develop the hand techniques and the leverage techniques that they need. Most offensive linemen coming out of high school are clobbering people our size in their games half the time. They're not going up against NFL level physical defensive linemen, right? So offensive line is an extremely difficult position to immediately be ready for at any level of college football. So I certainly don't think the Armstrong twins are something to be concerned about. We knew they were going to take a year or two to really be able to be potential contributors. And I think you took them as a conscious choice, knowing Ohio produces a ton of NFL players, but Ohio State misses out on a lot of these kids because oftentimes without spring football, Ohio players have a little longer path in college. So for once we said, hey, let's play the long game. Let's plug these 2 in because look at the potential, and we're trying to let the potential play out. So no, that's a long way of saying I'm not concerned. This is pretty much the plan right now.
Carter Lowe looks good, as John's pointing out on YouTube. Carter Lowe, I mean, the blueprint looks pretty clear at left tackle because all these guys are moving around all over the offensive line, right? Because they saw what happened last year, and they're getting these guys ready. Ethan Onionwa, I'm mispronouncing, Onionwa is only playing left tackle. We know he's the starter, as you said. Yeah. And then Carter Lowe, what's he doing? Is he moving around? Right tackle, left tackle? No, left tackle, that's it. So the blueprint is clear. Onionwa this year, and then Carter Lowe takes over next year as a starting left tackle. And he's just as big as Onionwa.
Yep, and that's an example of one of those kids we talked about that comes in and is a little more physically ready, right? And he, there's a reason Carter Lowe was a top 5 national tackle. We're lucky he was here in the state of Ohio, and we landed him. That's a kid where you're going to spend all year having him essentially apprentice and learn everything he can about that position. Next spring, if he's not the one that we walk out of spring at this time of year going, ooh, then I'm going to be concerned, right? Because he's a player you thought was more ready up front versus the Armstrong twins when they came out of high school. So that's a good dichotomy and comparison right there between the two. I think another thing it'll be interesting to watch, though, is that assuming the guard play is where it needs to be, do they try to get Carter Lowe on the field in certain situations to make sure he gets some game time this year? That'll be the part I'm most interested to see related to him.
Great stuff, Bax. I appreciate it, my man.
Hey, Dave, it is great to be here on the Bucknuts Morning 5, and I just want to say that I'm thrilled that we're not retiring people's jerseys whose dads are head coaches, and that's the only reason. So glad we're at a real football school.
Are you still basking?
The basking will bask until the next one gives me more reason to bask.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. Basking is perpetual, Dave.
I love that everybody in the comments is still basking. Everybody should still be basking. I know you guys are, and that's great. So we are basking for sure. And we're going to be basking, like Bax says, till maybe the next time we're basking after another national championship. Might this be the first Ohio State team to ever go back-to-back with national championships? We shall find out. Great stuff, Bax. Hey, you're reading my mind, John. Great stuff. All right, Bax. I'm going to close the show now. I appreciate you, man. Thanks to everybody out there. Go Bucks. Stay basking. Still basking.